Today on the CTV News at 5, another serious pedestrian accident on Lethbridge streets. Plus, students in Arrowwood are back to class after an arson fire ravages their school. And Kimberley residents are on evacuation alert due to flooding.
CTV News with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. A 25-year-old woman is in hospital with critical injuries, and charges are pending against an elderly driver after a serious pedestrian collision in South Lethbridge this morning. The victim was walking across 13th Street South just after 10 a.m. when she was hit by a small truck that was making a left-hand turn off 4th Avenue. The woman was treated at the Chinook Regional Hospital for serious, life-threatening injuries. She has since been transferred to the Foothills Hospital in Calgary. The truck was being driven by an 86-year-old woman. The intersection was partly blocked for about 2 hours while members of the Lethbridge Regional Police Service Traffic Response Unit carried out their investigation.
It appeared the pedestrian was in the crosswalk. That's what we have several witnesses to the incident. That's what they have reported to us, that the pedestrian was in the crosswalk and crossing with the right-of-way, and the vehicle was in the process of executing a left turn and for some reason didn't see the pedestrian.
Police are once again urging drivers to be aware of pedestrian safety. There have been 3 fatal pedestrian collisions in Lethbridge so far this year. Students in Arrowwood were back to class today after an arson fire caused millions of dollars in damage to their school. Police say the fire at the grade 1 to 9 school, along with 5 other blazes, were deliberately set last Friday. 20-year-old Theron Majoris from the Siksika First Nation is behind bars tonight, facing 12 charges, including arson. As Kevin Green reports, it's a devastating blow for the small community.
Crews cleared the debris inside Arrowwood School. Friday, a deliberately set fire ravaged the building.
Well, it's been traumatic. It really has.
Thick black soot covers the floors, walls, and ceiling. What the fire didn't burn, the smoke has destroyed.
It's difficult to understand why somebody would do this kind of damage and ultimately affect the whole community and affect the kids the way that they've been affected.
On Wednesday, school is back in at the Arrowwood Community Center. Josh Holloway is one of the 82 students in class here.
When my dad came in and said the school was on fire, it felt like my heart just skipped a beat.
Like all the kindergarten to grade 9 students here, Josh can't understand why anyone would torch his school.
I was pretty angry at what happened, and it was just why our school.
Class might be in here, but just about everything you need to run a school, from textbooks to pencils, papers, and art supplies, is absent, destroyed in Friday's fire. This little school needs a lot of help.
For now, we're looking at all our alternatives. We have kids that have lost water bottles and indoor shoes and, things that you can use on a day-to-day basis.
Damage to the Arrowwood School is pegged at over $4 million. Palliser School Division hopes to reopen it in time for the start of the next school year. Kevin Green, CTV News, Arrowwood.
And if you want to donate, you can go to the website ctv.calgary.ca. Meanwhile, a Clare's home man charged with first-degree murder in relation to the death of a Vulcan senior was in court today on another matter. Timmy Engel appeared in Fort Macleod via closed-circuit television. He's accused of uttering threats, assault, and unlawful confinement, and a domestic assault. Engel was out on bail on those charges when 77-year-old Otto Bunty Luce was murdered. Today, Engel's lawyer elected for his client to be tried by a Court of Queen's Bench judge. A date for a preliminary hearing will likely be set at his next court appearance May 30th. Engel scheduled to return to court on the murder charges this coming Friday. A Coaldale man will serve time in jail after pleading guilty to sexually assaulting 2 young girls. Crown prosecutors say that Barry Vincent White was hired by friends last year to babysit their daughters, who were 9 and 12 at the time. The 26-year-old reportedly played games with him, which involved unwanted tickling, kissing, and sexual touching. White was sentenced to a year in jail and 18 months probation. He must undergo counseling and is not allowed near playgrounds or schools. White will also have his name added to the Canada Sex Offender Registry. Meanwhile, 2 Lethbridge men who admitted to a home invasion, abduction, and torture have been sentenced to 5 years behind bars. Last July, Adrian Theroux and Charles Morrison Loney went to the home of the 20-year-old victim. They broke in, kidnapped the man, and then drove him to a rural property where they tortured him for the next 5 hours. Crown prosecutors say the incident stemmed from a drug deal involving the victim and the accused man's employer. 2 other men are also facing related charges, John Reynolds and Corey Barassa. They'll be back before the courts on June 1st. Well, about 40 homes in Kimberley are on evacuation alert because of localized flooding in the East Kootenay community.
I've lived here 7 years. This is our 3rd flood that we've experienced. This was the worst that we've experienced.
Homes are surrounded by water, mainly in the Morrison subdivision. Residents are pumping water out of their basements and preparing in case they have to leave their homes. The Lois Creek and Kimberley Creek are overflowing because of spring runoff and recent rains. Community members are helping out by filling the over 5,000 sandbags that are at the city's disposal. The city's entire operations staff are working to divert the water into storm drains.
There's certainly the city doesn't shoulder liability for that, but the fact that we are now covered under the PEP program, which is the provincial program for emergencies like this, that residents apparently can apply to receive compensation for damage that has occurred as a result of the flooding.
Thunderstorms last night made water levels in the creeks rise by almost 2 feet. We've got some unstable weather, Dory, until we get into Sunday, I understand.
Yeah, we really do, Jackie. It's all got to do with the jet stream and just how far south it's going to sag. We've been in a bit of a protective bubble, although we did have that rogue thunderstorm move through last night and create some shower activity, but not all areas of southern Alberta saw that. All areas are going to be seeing some shower activity as the jet stream collapses and some low pressure from BC moves into southern Alberta. I'll have all the details coming up in a couple of minutes.
Okay, thanks, Dory. Well, just days after the election, a Southern Alberta Wild Rose candidate is stirring up controversy by criticizing voters in Alberta's cities. Gary Bickman won his seat for the Wild Rose in Cardston Tabor Warner, but says the reason that his party didn't form government is because urban voters didn't understand the issues. Many blamed the Wild Rose loss on controversial comments made by other Wild Rose candidates. Calgary Wild Rose candidate Ron Leach said he had a political advantage because he is white. Edmonton Wild Rose candidate Alan Hunsberger warned gays that they will burn in hell. Bickman says candidates were stating things that were obvious and rural voters are more sensible.
I think they possess more common sense. At least that's my experience. The people that make their living off the land really seem to understand the way nature really works.
Political experts believe Bickman's comments will make it very difficult for the Wild Rose to make inroads in Alberta's urban areas.
If you're arguing that people in rural communities have common sense and people in urban cities don't, that's a fine pace to make if you want to remain at 20% of the vote.
Bickman won his seat with 54.5% of the votes, one of the largest margins of victory in the entire province. Meanwhile, Lethbridge East MLA Bridget Pasteur says it may sound Pollyanna, but she thinks that the PCs and Wild Rose can work together in the future. Pasteur says MLAs will have to put their egos aside and focus on what's important for all Albertans. Pasteur has experience on both sides of the government for the opposition as well. Even though the election campaign was hostile at times, she believes the government will be able to work with Southern Alberta's Wild Rose MLAs over the next 4 years.
I think anybody can work with anybody if they go in with the right mind and say, look, here's my ideas, here's your ideas, some of mine are good, some of yours are good, let's put them together and see what we end up with, which is a lot of what municipal politicians do. So I'm really hoping that, as I say, that the partisan egos can be left at the door and let's get on to some good work. We've got a lot to do in this province because we have to move forward, so we really have to play nicely in the sandbox.
The government MLAs are scheduled to attend an orientation session in Edmonton on May the 1st. A convoy of retired emergency response vehicles are en route to Mexico. 8 members of the Rotary Club of Lethbridge loaded into these gently used fire trucks and ambulances this morning outside Streetside Eatery, and they're bound for Mazatlan. The drivers will come back, but the buses are a gift to the people of Mexico. Emergency response vehicles are in desperate need in the region, and Rotary members say these should go a long way in helping emergency workers in Mexico do their jobs.
We took some school buses down to Mazatlan last year, and there was a fire truck that was involved with that convoy. And the amazing thing is that the firemen, the volunteer firemen, were almost in tears because they were so excited about it. It was so important to their community. Most of the communities down there don't get the fire equipment, and if they can, it's far too expensive for them to buy.
Well, after recovering from the BSC affair, Canada's beef industry is recognizing the need to diversify its exports market. We have more in tonight's report from Farm.tv.
What is Canada's place in the global beef world? Charlie Gracie is a livestock industry consultant and former executive vice president of the Canadian Cattlemen's Association.
The beef industry has been through a long, drawn-out affair after BSE, and I think many people are recognizing that we need to diversify our market fairly flat.
What's our position in the global beef market?
If we're going to play in the global world, we have to play a larger role. However, having said that, that has to happen after we get the market signals to expand. I'm not one to advocate expansion on the hope that there will be markets out there. We need better, I think, situational analysis of the industry, give producers better information so they can make their own decisions.
Where's the market for Canadian beef now?
Well, the biggest market right now, by far, is the United States, and it will remain the biggest market. But to improve competition, we need to access other markets like Japan, Korea, and so on. This is interesting because one of the most successful exporters right now is the United States. And they're a deficit producer of beef. They consume more than they produce. But they export. Why? To create competition. And we need to learn a lesson from that. With growing global populations, there's certainly going to be increasing demand for the type of high-quality beef that's produced in Canada. We're one of only 3 countries that produces significant amounts of fed beef. If rising affluence in countries like Japan creates a demand, then so we've got opportunities.
Farm TV is brought to you by DA Building Systems.
And to the markets where the Loonie, TSX, and Dow Jones all made some gains. Here's a look.